How to mold changes. Let's walk step by step through how to do a mold change. First, you will need to load the job that you're going to run. Select the job on the molding machine screen and load it before you set the tool. Also, before setting the tool, you will need to check the knockout pattern on the mold. Open the molding machine door and apply the lockout device that is referenced in the lockout tagout work instruction. This step is critical for safety if you were to walk away. Install the ejector rods in the same orientation as the pattern on the back of the tool. Pay special attention to this step, or the ejector system will not function properly. You will thread them into the platen by hand until they are hand-tight. Once the ejector rods are hand-tight, you will tighten them down the rest of the way using a wrench. You may now remove your lockout device to allow you to shut the molding machine door. Shut the molding machine door and retract the ejectors to the set position. They should not stick out past the platen. Reapply your lockout device. Thread in your eye bolts as per the crane and rigging training. It's time to lift the mold. Use caution when moving the mold with the crane, as they can be quite heavy. Lift the mold carefully, not allowing it to swing back and forth. You will have to go only high enough to clear the molding machine and any auxiliary equipment, clearing the tie bars. Move the mold above the tie bars, and then center the mold between the top two tie bars. Carefully lower the mold between the tie bars. Be very careful not to put your hand between the mold and the tie bars. There is a crushing or pinching risk if your hand is between them. Keep your eye on the mold as you lower it. You do not want the mold to collide with any equipment either. You now need to get the locating ring on the mold into the platen on the A half. This aligns the mold the same every time. Slowly move the mold into the platen using the crane. You can carefully use your hand to guide the mold if necessary, being mindful of pinch points. Now it's time to level the mold. The mold must be level for the bolt holes and ejector rods to line up correctly. The bubble on the level should be between the lines. It is time to install the clamps into the platen on the A half of the mold. The clamp should fit into the machined channels on the mold. Hand tighten the bolt into the clamp. It should move freely. Continue with the next clamp after the first is installed. If the bolt will not install easily, it may need to be replaced. Once hand tight, you will need to tighten the bolts using a ratcheting tool. The clamps are all that hold the mold into the platen. Now go around to the non-operator or back side of the press and do the same for the next two clamps on the A side of the tool. There may be additional obstruction to the clamp installation on the non-operator side, so be mindful of your work area. Now, you can release the tension on the chain of the hoist. You do not want to have too much tension, or the halves of the tool will not be correctly aligned. Remove your lockout device. Put the molding machine into the mold setting mode. Turn the servo motor or hydraulic pump back on. You will now set the die height on the machine. Refer to the manual or work instruction if you are not sure how to do this. The process differs by manufacturer. This will be done automatically on most machines and may take a few minutes to complete. Don't lose focus while this occurs. Keep your eye on the molding machine and the mold the entire time. Check and set your mold touch position, and then lock up the mold. Reapply your lockout device. Now, install the clamps for the operator side of the B half of the mold. Be sure that the bolts line up correctly with the threads of the platen. Don't forget, hand tighten the bolts first, making sure that they go in smoothly. Bolts can seize up or become cross-threaded if installed incorrectly. Tighten the bolts with your ratcheting tool once hand tight. Go around to the non-operator side of the machine around the back and continue to install the clamps. Remember to make sure that they are fully engaged with both the mold and the platen. A mold falling out of the press can not only damage equipment around the press, but someone could get severely injured as well. Don't rush through applying clamps. This step is very critical. When done, you should have a minimum of 8 clamps total installed on the mold. You may now detach the hooks from the crane from the mold. It is fully secured into the molding machine. Be sure to remove the crane from the area above the molding machine. Once started, something could collide with the chains or hooks. Remove your lockout device. Turn the servo motor or hydraulic pump back on, and in mold setting mode, open the mold slowly. Apply your lockout device. Remove the eye bolts or D-rings from the mold. These will interfere with operations as well. Prepare the cooling lines or water jumpers at this point to be installed on the mold. The jumpers should not have any wear from rubbing. Identify the water fittings on the mold and attach the hoses in the correct order to ensure proper flow through the mold. Think of this as turn-by-turn directions from a GPS. Also, pay attention to the length of the hoses and use the proper length hose for the connection. You do not want excess hose in the way of operations, and you do not want the hose to be pulled too tight. Attach clips to the quick connect fittings so that they do not pop off in operation. Pay special attention to the hoses on the B half of the tool. Remember, these hoses will be moving every time the mold opens and closes. If a hose were to rub through or smash in the mold, you'll have a major water leak. A few extra minutes spent on installing hoses now can save you an hour of mopping up water later. Double-check the quick connect fittings are secure by giving a little tug on the hoses. You can now open the ball valves and allow water to flow through the mold. Keep an eye out for any leaks as you open the ball valves one at a time. You are now complete with the mold installation. Follow the instructions for startup from this point.